Hi, this is Lynn Richardson. You are building wealth with friends and family, and I am so excited about sharing everything I know about everything I know with you. So get ready, get set,
I thank
subscribe,
God.
and
I'm going to
share with
open
more
up
friends
quickly
and
with
family.
prayer,
Let's
and
go.
then I'm going to share what it is that I came to share this evening. So, Father God, thank you for this opportunity to come before you. Thank you for the opportunity to just be in your presence again. Thank you for the opportunity to thank you once again. Thank you for the opportunity to stand in gratitude, because if you did nothing else, waking us up this morning and in our right mind and able to just be in your presence is enough. So thank you, God, for that. Thank you for everybody who was here. Thank you for those who tried to make it and couldn't come, and thank you for those who will come in the future. We ask that we just be given a fresh word that gives us new energy, new power, new direction, new thought, and new awareness of our assignment that you have and the vision that you have for our lives. In Jesus' name we pray, we honor, and we love you. Amen, amen, amen. Okay, so I wanted to just share with you what I am doing right now, what my family is doing right now, and some of the things that you may not know. Even though, many, if you're family and friends, then, you have heard me speak, probably for the past 25 years. Some of you may have heard me speak or told me what I was going to do before I even knew to do it. and before I was even aware enough, and maybe sometimes even ready enough in order to do it. So I wanted to share some of the things that, again, sometimes we hear things many, many times, but it's that new little piece, it's that new little twist that we don't recognize. One thing I am certain about, and I've been teaching Bible study every Wednesday night at my church, California Worship Center, where Pastor Warren and First Lady Erica Campbell are our leaders. And about 3 or 4 months ago, they asked me to teach Bible study, and I said, of course. I had a 12-week, class on biblical steps to wealth, and people started coming, and folks are like, "Oh my God, we love this class," because it's really not about money. It's about every single thing else. And money is just a byproduct. It's just a resource. So he had given me that assignment, and I see so many things happening. And one of the things that I shared in one of the weeks that I'm going to be teaching in just a few weeks is that the Bible says that the meek shall inherit the land and enjoy peace. The meek shall inherit the land and enjoy peace. It is one of the only assets, I should say, real assets that the Bible speaks of that is directly attached to peace. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, because some of us may have worked for the past 20 years and been able to garner a pension. Some of us may not. Some of us may have been on jobs long enough to get a 401k. Some of us may not. Some of us may have invested in the stock market over time or had a mutual fund. Some of us may not. Some of us may have built wealth through real estate or some other methods, and some of us may not. And some of us may be either very early in our journey, right after college. Some of us may be midway there in our 30s and 40s. And others of us may either be approaching retirement in our 50s and 60s, or already there or past it. And the one thing that I have to say is it's never too late. It is never too late to change the game. So I'm going to share a couple of things specifically that I will be deploying with my children, my close family members and friends, those who have reached out and said, I'm trying to figure it out. Yes, getting a job is a part of it. I have been a big advocate of entrepreneurship and having a home-based business. And I still think everybody needs a home-based business, because there are things that you can write off when you have a home-based business that you cannot write off in other circumstances, things that you cannot write off in other situations, things that you cannot write off if you are just focused on having a job. Now, having a job is good. I tell everybody, go and get your 401k, go and get your benefits, go and get all of those things if you can have them. So I am not teaching people to quit their job, even though I quit mine. My sister Marvin was there when I did it. And I said I was gonna go get a divinity license and help all these people. But I'm not advocating quitting your job. If you have one, if God has blessed you with it, and you can pray and tolerate the people there and so on and so forth, keep it as long as you can. So I am still an advocate of having a home-based business. I'm still an advocate of that, because when you go out to eat for personal reasons, just think about how many times you went out to eat. Wherever you went, IHOP, Red Lobster, Home Run Inn, Checkers, it doesn't matter where you went, and you spent money. Well, if you went and you discuss business, you keep that receipt and you literally get that money back. Now, it doesn't feel like it's a lot, but if you go and add up all of your receipts throughout the year, you will realize how much you can actually get back. So I'm still an advocate of that. I'm still an advocate of having a 401k and a pension, but I'm also an advocate of this. And we have to learn these strategies, because when I start talking to my non-African American colleagues and my non-African American partners and business partners and things, not just here in the United States, but in other parts of the world, they're deploying these strategies. They're sitting at the dinner table with their children and siblings and uncles and aunts and grandparents or whomever, and they're passing down the strategies from one family to the next, but we are not. And so I no longer want to be guilty of that. So one of the things that you can do, and I'm just going to go through a couple of things that you can do that you may want to consider. These may not work for everybody. They may work for one and not the other, but at least we know them. And we have not implemented them because we didn't know. It's because we went through the numbers and it didn't work for us. So the first thing I want to say is for young people, because and my sister attorney Deidre Wood Stokes said this today, and it was so powerful, because a lot of times the older generation, my generation, we tell the younger generation, we had to go through this, we had to go through that, so on and so forth. And so, sometimes we say, we had to do it all. And so we're helping you. But the truth is that the younger generation, you have your challenges too. When we were growing up, we didn't see go on social media and see everybody living these big old beautiful lives, which many times are not the truth, but we didn't see that. If we wanted to watch the news only came on in the morning, and chances are you were going to school. I think it came on at like 3:00 in the afternoon after school, or the 5:00 news or something like that. And then it came on at 10:00 at night. That's it. We didn't get the news all day, 24 hours a day. So we were not inundated all the time, every single minute of the day, with bad news. Now, through social media and TV and cable, it's news all day. So you are constantly being hit. You are constantly being attacked. You are constantly being reminded of all of the stuff, and some of it you may not be able to filter through. So my prayers go out to our millennials and Generation Z and Y, and I don't know what all the other ones are, but you are in our prayers. We're lifting you up. So this first part of the message is for you, because a lot of the younger generation think that real estate either does not make sense for you because the job market is crazy. The jobs are like out of control. AI is taking over and all these things. But the truth is, for the younger generation, and especially for those who are either still in school or those who are just out of school, real estate is the time, if you can find something that is in your budget. So if you have budgeted, I can spend $1,100 a month on rent, or I could spend $700 a month on rent, or I can spend $1,500 a month on rent, whatever it is. If you are out and you've been blessed and God has gotten you a job, the best time to buy real estate is as soon as you graduate. Let me explain to you why. Because as soon as you graduate, you don't even need to have 2 years of work history. Let me repeat. As soon as you graduate, you don't need 2 years of work history. If you graduate, however, in 2021 or 2023 or 2025, but then you try to go get a house in 2029, they want to see a 2-year consistent work history. The reason why you don't need a work history when you just graduate is because they're going to take your time in college as your work history. And my sister Marva, my spiritual sister Marva, used to work with me in the mortgage business. So that rule has not changed. I've been looking at things, and although there are a lot of things changing, many things are still the same. And I want the people of God to know what these things are. So if you are a recent college grad, all you need to show to get approved for a mortgage is your transcript. They don't care about your grades as long as it says degree conferred. So your transcript and your offer letter from your new job, you can go apply for a mortgage and get approved today. All you need is your transcript and your offer letter for your new job. You can start searching for a home and you can get approved for that mortgage. Before you close, so it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to close on a mortgage. Before you close, you must have your first pay stub. So let's say, for example, you just graduated in May or June, you have a job, you're going to start your job September 1st, and you go out and find a house and you're relocating, you're looking for rent. Now, let me explain something to y'all about rent. It is harder to rent right now than it is to buy. It is harder to rent because, unfortunately, many of the landlords have put in extremely ridiculous criteria in order for people to rent, in part because of the money that they lost during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, people who lost their jobs didn't pay their rent. The landlords were kind of stuck, so on and so forth. So once we got through the pandemic, you'll see that many landlords, rents have gone up. You know, if you want to live in Chicago and you want to spend $1,500 a month, if you already have a place that you like, that is clean, is not a roach motel, and is not infested, then praise God. But I personally know family members who've been trying to rent in Chicago for under $2,000 a month, and it's almost impossible to find. Okay, so renting, they now have these credit score requirements. Now, let me explain to you about credit scores. When you go to a particular kind of lender, the credit report that they pull is specific to that industry. So I'll prove it to you. If you go to myfico.com and pull your 3 bureau credit report, and then you go into your file, you will see 3 different kinds of credit scores. No, 4. You will see your general credit score, and then you can click and see your mortgage credit score. That's if you're applying for a mortgage. You can then click and see your automobile credit score. That's if you're applying for a car. And then you can see your credit card credit score. And in most cases, those scores are different. So landlords have a specific criteria. I have personally seen one of my clients who is also a part of our family. We were getting this person into an apartment a couple years ago. Their regular credit score was close to 700, but their renting credit score was was very low, 600, almost 500. That person could not get an apartment. Okay, so renting in many cases is more difficult than buying because of the unregulated scoring policies of landlords. All right. The other issue with renting right now is that these big investors are coming into our cities, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Minnesota, like everywhere. They're coming into our cities. They're buying up all the land, and it is intentional. And their goal is to improve these properties, increase the rent so high that the average person cannot buy. And then they have to move way out in the boondocks and the suburbs. Not that the suburbs are always bad, but this is a part of their strategy. Okay. So back to new or recent college grads. New or recent college grads, do not have to show a 2-year work history. They just need a transcript. They need a copy of their degree, okay, their transcript showing degree conferred, a copy of their degree, the offer letter in the same field, okay, the offer letter in the same field. And sometimes your offer letter, you may have to, or you may have to explain your field and how it applies. I'll give you an example. So a few years ago, my oldest daughter purchased a home here in California under this same concept. She was able to buy a home shortly after graduating. We were able to show her offer letter, and she works in the entertainment industry. Now, Sydney has been working in the entertainment industry since she was a kid, like literally. Light hired her so long ago. And so she'd been working in the field for a long time. But her degree was in education and social policy. That's what her degree is in. So when we submitted her loan, we had to write a letter of explanation explaining that her degree in education and social policy was relevant to working in the entertainment industry because artists have these psychological educational needs, and we were able to bridge the gap. And she literally got approved for the mortgage. I worked on it for about 6 months to a year. No, about 9 months. I worked on it for about 9 months during the time that she was applying. And so she ultimately got approved. So if your undergraduate degree is in business, then you get a job doing some kind of business. All right. If your undergraduate degree is in history, you can get some kind of job where history is applicable to your field. So if you think that you do not have a match, don't give up. Don't give up. Reach out to me, or reach out to your parent, or reach out to the person who invited you to this, so you can bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. All right. So that's very important. And the reason why this is important, especially for young people, because I'm saying our young people struggle, go get that job, live wherever they told you to live. You know, you're making a modest or a moderate incoming salary, and the rents are going up and up and up. Your salary may not be going up and up and up, but guess what will increase? Your equity will increase. Your equity increases over time. So I want you to know that. Also, for new and recent college grads, you can buy a house with only 3% down. So $100,000 house is $3,000 down. And for some people, their security deposit is that. Okay, your first month's rent, your first month's security deposit is what you would pay for a down payment. $150,000 is $4,500, $200,000 is $6,000. So then you might be thinking, well, where am I going to get this money? I'm glad you asked. If you are someone looking to buy a house, where are you going to get this money? Well, let me say this: act the way you want to be right now, and sooner or later you will be the way you act. So right now, if you're living with a family member, or if you are still living on campus and you got your new job, then act like you're already paying rent. Take $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month and literally put it someplace and don't touch it. Put it someplace and don't touch it. Okay. Excuse Cody. Let me tell y'all something. These dogs around here, child, between Pepper and Cody, I don't know what's happening. And Cody ain't but 3 pounds. And when somebody come ring the doorbell, Cody go barking like he about to wet him down like the militia. So please forgive my beautiful animals that live here and all that stuff. Okay, so I want you to be mindful of that. Act the way you want to be, and sooner or later you will be the way you act. Now, I know you all can save money. I know you can save money. Everybody, and I love Beyonce, but everybody that went to the Beyonce concert bought an outfit, got the tickets, bought your fan and your boots. You went to multiple concerts, because I went to one concert in Chicago with all my sisters, and then came home and went to it again because I wanted to sit in a box seat in the front row. And when the boots and the fans and where the fans at, when that came out, I just can't go again. So I know people who done went multiple times. So if you can save money for a Beyonce concert, and that's not a judgment, enjoy life, have your fun, but also buy your house, or invest your money, or do whatever you got to do. Okay. So that's for my recent people. What I want you to know is that it is possible for you. This may not work today, but if you work on a strategy, it can work. Second thing I want to talk about. This is for people who are currently in college. So many of you move off campus and then you rent an apartment or a house with 4 or 5 friends. I've been talking about this for about 20 years. And many of my, again, non-African American colleagues, they are doing it across the board. And especially if you go to schools in states where the property values are still low, like Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and Louisiana and Texas and North Carolina and South Carolina, and even in some parts of Chicago. If you are still in college, you don't even need a job to buy a house, okay? You don't need a job to buy a house. You need to be in college. You need a co-signer who does have a salary, and the co-signer has to be a family member. And you can show, I'm going to live in one room and I'm going to rent out the other 3 rooms. Now you can put 2 roommates in each of those rooms and you're collecting rent from 6 people. You can do it. We approve them all the time. They called them kitty condos back in the day. And it's just a term for it, but it doesn't have to be a condo. It could be a townhouse. It could be a single family home and all of that. Now, I would have done this for Kennedy and Taylor when they were at Howard, but they went to Howard right in the middle of the pandemic. And so I was not able, it was 2 things preventing me from doing that. One, I couldn't travel to go see the property because we were on lockdown. And 2, if you remember during that time, real estate prices were overinflated. So there was a big demand for homes. And if you did not buy a house before like January of 2021, we bought our house in like January of 2021 that I live in now. By April of 2021, if you went out and made an offer on a $200,000 house, people were offering $215, $220, $225. So that reversed itself. The market was overinflated. So I was not able to do it while my kids were in college. And then Taylor graduated the very next year in 2022. And Kennedy came right behind her in 2023. So I just really didn't get to take advantage of it. But now is a time you can still take advantage of that. Okay, so this is what it looks like. First of all, you've got a child in college and we're looking for scholarships. And even for the smart people, honey, I don't know where the scholarships at. I mean, they talking about where them fans at, where them scholarships at, and we need to be flashing some money. Bam, bam, bam. Where them scholarships at? Okay, we need to all do a new line dance and call it where them funds at. Okay, where them fans at? Where them funds at? Right? So everybody that I know who have children in college, multiple people in college, you're trying to put them through college, everybody's looking for money. Okay, so this may be a way to decrease your overall college expenses. So one of my sorority sisters did this with her daughter at Tennessee State. She moved off campus. She's from Chicago, Illinois, went to school in Tennessee because they had the excellent program. And she moved and bought a townhouse. I think at the time, that townhouse, and it was, the times have adjusted, but at that time, the townhouse was like $125,000. The down payment was like $3,000. Now she was going to spend $7,000 on housing that semester. So the down payment was a discount. Then she had extra bedrooms. She rented out those bedrooms. The mortgage payment was under $1,000, but she was collecting $4,000 off the rents. The other roommates paid up front in advance as soon as they got their refund check. So she had all of the rent money in September for the rest of the year. Then she had it in January for the spring semester. So the rent is paid up front. Now her child did not have any housing expense. So the $7,000 she was going to spend, she had to put down $3,000 for the down payment, but now she just got back the rent money. So she's now saving that. But the other thing that happened is her tuition went from $15,000 being an out-of-state student, it went down to $3,000 or something like that being an in-state student. These are real facts. Go look at the website yourself. Go look at the websites for any state schools. Jackson State, Grambling State, Tennessee State, a lot of the states, okay, that we go to, Chicago State, and you're an out-of-state resident going to that school. And if you don't have a hookup, somebody, an alumni that hooked up your tuition, some people are still suffering. And if you already do have the hookup, then guess what? You still have the ability to save. So what we're looking at is ways to minimize our out-of-pocket expenses and increase our wealth at the same time. Now, does this come without risk? No, everything is a risk. When you walk outside and get in your car and you get on the expressway, that's a risk. Everything is a risk. But, we pray to God to protect us from danger seen and unseen. We ask God to teach us the things that we don't know, because people fail in life because they don't know what they don't know and they think they know, right? So we ask God to continue to teach us, and then the mistakes that we make, if you made a mistake in the past and say, well, I'll never do that again. No, just ask God to teach you the lesson so you can get the blessing. Okay, so always ask God to teach me the lesson so I can get the blessing. And then one thing that I prayed for when I moved to California, my husband and children were still at home. Demetrius and the kids were still in Chicago. And, I'd never been away from my husband more than a night or two, traveling for business. And I certainly had not been away from my kids for months and months at a time. So I was concerned about that, but I knew that I had to follow what God had told me to do. And so I just prayed that God would teach my children the things that they could only learn in my absence. That's what I prayed for. And it gave me a sense of peace. It gave me a sense of covering. And because I knew he had me. And there are some things that our children can only learn, or our spouse or our significant other or the people we are dependent on or those who are depending on us. There are some things that they can only learn in our absence, because sometimes we don't want them to learn a lesson. We block, we this, that, and the other, but there is no experience like your own experience sometimes. Now, we want to learn from others, but we also want to gain the knowledge that life can teach us and gain the discernment from listening to God when we feel like we're in the wilderness. So I wanted to share that. So the first thing was me talking about recent college grads. The second was me talking about those who are in school, and both of those are going to be a part of our family strategy. So my recent college grads are going to be on the path, and I'm going to be looking for homes. I've already found something in Chicago, and I got a team in Chicago that's helping me there. I'm going to go out, Light and I, looking at some places in Los Angeles and so on and so forth. The third strategy, actually, I'm going to tell you four. The third strategy that I want to talk about is the FHA 203K rehab. It is an old school program, but it is still alive and well today. And the wealthy people and those who are connected are using it and leveraging it all day long. The FHA 203K rehab loan gives you the ability to buy any property 4 units or less. Okay, so we're talking about residential, or we're talking about commercial residential 4 units or less. So if it's residential, it's either a single family house, a condo, a townhouse, or it's a 2-flat, 3-flat, or 4-flat. For those of you in other parts of the country, that might be a 2-plex, a duplex, or triplex, or whatever y'all call it, or a 2-family, 3-family, or 4-family. But in Chicago, we call them 2-flats, 3-flats, or 4-flats. And they look like the brownstones sometimes on the Cosby Show, okay? So we have brownstones and graystones in Chicago, and sometimes these are 2, 3, and 4-family buildings. Now, some of them can also be commercial residential. You can have an office space on the first floor, and then the other 3 units above it are apartments, okay? So it can be up to 4 units, and more than half of the units must be residential, okay? So if it's a 4-unit building, 3 of them would need to be residential and 1 could be commercial. And I'll send you guys links in the chat and all that stuff, because you're not going to remember all of this. But so this is the rehab. You can get a house for 3% down. That means in California, you can get $1 million house in California for less than $30,000 down. And many people know that $1 million house in California, honey, look like a trap somewhere. Some of them, they just not right. Okay. They're just not right. The property values here are high, but you can now refinance 100% of the rehab costs. So I just found a property on Peoria in Chicago. It's a 3-flat for $149,000. It's a 3-flat. I can put $200,000 into it. I'm not using my money. I am not using my money. That's another thing. We need to be using everybody's money, everybody else's money. Okay. I'm not using my money. It doesn't matter how much you have or don't have. I'm not using it. Okay. So the first step in my strategy is to put as little money down as possible and to use as much of other people's money as possible for the rest. So I can refinance 100% of the cost to rehab it. I might want new kitchen, new bathroom. I might want to convert a 2-flat into a big old single family home. I might want to convert a single family home into a 2-flat. I might want to convert, a 4-family residence into one commercial space for my business, for my barbershop or my nail salon or my, consulting practice or whatever it is I want to have, and live in one of the units and rent the other 2 out. Okay. So what you want to look at with this strategy is you want to know what the property value is going to be after the rehab. All right. And if you're going to rent it out, you want to look at what is the monthly cash flow. And I have spreadsheets to help you figure that out. So you don't have to call me. All you got to do is have a computer, pull it up, open a spreadsheet, put in like 5 things in the yellow boxes. Y'all know I'm a teacher. Put in 5 things and everything calculates for you. And you can see literally if it's a good deal or not. So I've helped lots of people all over the country. I've never done most of what I've helped people with in the area of real estate. I haven't done it myself. And I'll tell you why. Because I was busy. And if you start doing real estate, you need to be able to pay attention. Okay. Because having real estate property is like having children. You got to take care of it. You got to watch it. You got to make sure stuff is acting right, working right, those kinds of things. So I'm at that place in my life. Demetrius and I, our kids are, educated, although everybody's in law school and getting master's degrees and all that stuff, but I can focus on it. I'm not searching for anything. I'm not trying to go get something else. I'm not on the road 24/7. I can sit in one space and carve out the time and do it. So the FHA 203K rehab, again, the reasons why it's beneficial, you can put down 3%. You can finance 100% of the rehab cost. You can have no mortgage payments for 6 months, which is really 8 months. Let me explain. Those mortgage payments don't disappear. You finance them and add them to the loan. Okay. So if your mortgage payment is going to be $1,500 a month, that's $1,500 times 6. You have to take that amount, that's $9,000, I think, $9,000, and add it to the mortgage, and that will be included in your mortgage amount that you have to pay every month. Okay. But no mortgage payment for 6 months, but it's really 8 months. Let me explain to you why. When you buy a house, let's say, for example, you close in September. You don't make your first mortgage payment until November. Any state. If you close in October, you don't make your first mortgage payment until December. If you close in February, you don't make your first mortgage payment until April. Here's the reason why. When you pay rent on September 1st, you're paying for the month of September. Your landlord wants their money first, and then they let you live. But when you pay a mortgage on September 1st, you're actually paying for the month of August. When you closed in July 2 months ago, at the closing table, you paid interest for the extra days that you live in there in July. And then for the days you're living in there, August 1st through August 31st, you pay it in September. So rent is paid ahead of time. A mortgage is paid after the time. All right. So if you're going to have 6 months of mortgage payments, if you close on an FHA 203K rehab in September, you don't have a mortgage payment due until November, and you're financing 6 months of mortgage payments, well, then technically September, October, and then November starts with your 6 months, you technically don't have any housing expense for 8 months. Now, if the property is not inhabitable, well, then you got to go live somewhere. All right. With a family member, a friend, a cousin, a grandmama, anybody. Okay. Live somewhere. Or if a portion of the property is habitable, then you live in another portion of the property until it becomes habitable. Okay. So the FHA 203K rehab. Now, here's some things you might not think about. My house, I have solar panels. Very important, because the power goes out a lot where I live. I live on a mountaintop, and our power lines are underground. So if it's very, very windy up here, they don't want the power lines falling in other areas where I live, and those power lines catching fire to things and fire spreading. That's how the fires happened in California this past January. So even though our power lines are underground, they turn off the power everywhere because some of the older homes are not situated where the power lines are underground. So when the power goes out here, let me tell you, ain't no power. My first Thanksgiving, I got 3 ovens and everything went down. And then Demetrius got John to help us put the generator in, but the generator could only power a piece of the house. It's a big old house, and I could only turn on 1 oven. So we now have solar panels. So our solar panels completely 100% power the house when there is no power. And that happens a lot during the winter months when it's very, very windy. So that's just not for here, that's for anywhere. Because let me tell y'all something. This water, these hurricanes, honey, these tsunamis, these tornadoes, baby, they going everywhere. They are just everywhere. It is unexpected. People are tampering with the weather and all of that. I can't control that, but you can control some energy related things in your home. So you may need to upgrade and get solar panels. You may need to upgrade your heating and air conditioning systems, because some of these older homes have radiators still, and so on and so forth. So these are things you may want to think about for a house you are living in, one you're going to buy, and or vice versa. So those are some things I really, really want you to be thinking about. And for those of you who are trying to figure out, well, I can't find a place to live, buying your first property as a multi-unit building might be the answer, because you can live in one unit and you can pay the mortgage with the rent from the other units. Okay. So again, this is all about strategy. And what I don't want you to do is just go out there and look and just give up, or you're in school trying to figure out how you're going to stay there and just give up. There are things that you may do. Now, the 4th strategy I'm going to talk about is the VA loan. The VA loan is probably the most underutilized real estate strategy that exists. And a few years ago, they made the VA loan so desirable. So now I would not have made it past the first hour in basic training. First of all, when they started hollering at me, I'd have started crying and my brain would have clicked, because let me tell you, I don't deal with that kind of pressure well. Then if I had to run and jump over something, baby, it just wasn't gonna work. It just wasn't gonna work for me. I do cheerleading and dance, and that's as far as I go with physical activity. And then in the mud with the snakes and the grass, that's just not me. I literally would have fell apart. They'd have sent me home. But for those of you who have gone to the military, or family and friends, and I've got some of my younger God brothers, sisters here on this call or whatever, that VA loan. Okay, so not only is it zero money down, is zero money down. In addition to that, there is no limit on the loan amount. So if you have the kind of career that has paid you handsomely, and where you live, you want to buy $1 million house or $700,000 house or whatever that number is, there's no limit. You just have to be able to afford it in your income. Okay. So there used to be loan limits. So for every other thing that I've been talking about, there are loan limits, and I can send you the loan limits or show you where to go pull them up for your city and state. So for example, in California, the loan limit for a single family house in California is $970,000, but the loan limit in Chicago is lower. the loan limit in Atlanta is lower than that, right? Okay, but for a VA loan, there is no loan limit for no money down. If you want to put some money down, you can go above whatever it is that you're looking for, but there is no limit. So with the VA loan, you're able to get a house with no money down, and you're also able to do investment property. So many people are saying, well, I'm not going to buy my single family house first, because if I buy a single family house, a condo, or a townhouse, I got to pay the rent. Well, in some communities, and Los Angeles is one of those places, because the cost of living is so high here, even teachers with master's degrees and PhDs are renting rooms. So always remember, in certain communities, now that may not be for everybody, but for some people, it's quite all right. They're renting out rooms. Well, if you're not comfortable renting out a room in your space where you have to lock your door at night and close your windows at night, then maybe a multi-unit property may be good for you, because you can live in one unit and then have two or three other units that people can live in, and their own doors locked themselves, and they're not in your house, and you can still get in on real estate. So the meek shall inherit the land and enjoy peace. And there are so many things. I mean, I'm going to talk about stocks, when not today, but I'm just going to share this briefly. When the president hit those first tariffs, or introduced those first tariffs, I don't know if it was April or May, and the stock market just literally plummeted. So people with 401ks or just had money in the stock market got nervous. I was telling people, don't sell, because if you sell, you have a permanent loss. But if you let it stay there, let me tell you, one of my favorite stocks, NVIDIA, it fell. Oh, baby, it fell. I mean, the value went from like, they talking about go from 0 to 100, baby, it went the opposite direction. But in just 2 weeks, it started coming back. And now it's almost double what it was before the tariffs. Okay. So I'll talk about some of those things later so that we're up to date. And I'm not going to tell you what I know. I'm going to tell you what I've learned, and I'm going to point you to where I learned it, because I don't want anybody to say, well, Lynn said. No, I said it, but like a good minister, they're going to show you in the Bible where it's at. I'm going to show you in the financial systems where it is. And you can't believe everybody on YouTube. Some of those people are lying. It's just been out there, so on and so forth. I'm going to send you directly to irs.gov, or send you directly to fha.gov, or send you directly to the Department of Veterans Affairs, or anything that you have a question about, so you can validate and or verify anything that you are hearing. So it is almost the end of the hour. I don't want to keep you very long, past what is reasonable, but I did want to get together. I'm so glad that you are here. Do you have any questions? You can either send a question in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and you can ask me a question and I'll pass you the microphone. Either way. It's getting a little dark here. Wait a minute. The sun has gone down. Hold on. Let me turn the lights on. Okay.
Hello, Lynn. It's Marva.
Hey,
How
my
you
sister
doing?
Marva.
Hey,
So
beautiful. Yes, yes. You didn't mention credit scores, if there are any requirements for the FHA loan.
So that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked. I can't believe I did not say anything about that. So there is no minimum score for an FHA loan. However, there are two scenarios. One, if you don't have a score at all, that's great. Because if there is no score at all, then what the lender does is create what is called a RMCR, a residential mortgage credit report. So especially some of our young people don't have any credit, but they may pay a cell phone or something. We'll create a residential mortgage credit report. We'll find 2 or 3 things that you paid every month on time for the past 12 months. That could be a cell phone bill, subscription to the health club, childcare, daycare, some other kind of thing, anything that you paid for the past 12 months, or rent or something like that, and create a credit report, and the underwriter will review it. In the event that the score is under 620, So technically there's no minimum score, but what most lenders use now is automated underwriting. So automated underwriting is basically AI for mortgages. It literally takes thousands of pieces of data about that individual and then runs it through the cyberspace out there in the world that the Federal Home Loan Administration and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have all put together, and it comes back accept or it comes back ineligible. So it comes back approved eligible or approved ineligible, or it'll come back as a refer. Okay. Now, in those cases where it is not approved, because I've seen people approve eligible with a score at 605. Because here's the thing about a credit score. The score itself does not necessarily dictate the person's credit worthiness. Let me explain why. If you've got a lot of credit cards on your credit report and you pay them all every month, but let's say, for example, they're at or close to the limit, your score is going to be lower than if you had those credit cards and the balances were zero. So I have literally seen people's credit, and I've also seen it with me with cash flow. If my balance on some of my cards is really high because I've been traveling, using the card, so on and so forth, I'll notice that at the end of that month, yes, I paid the bill. I may have made the minimum payment, but at the end of that month on the statement closing date, what was reported to the credit bureau is I'm at 90% of my credit limit. Well, then I can see my score drop 20 points. Now, that doesn't worry me because I can see that the reason why it dropped is because I'm close to my limit on multiple credit cards. And that definitely happens when I have a team traveling in different places. So when Light comes to the city and it's the one-of-one tour and y'all see all them people, we have paid for flights and hotels and all these things. And so it's a lot of things moving and happening at one time. And she's going from one city to the next. So a lot of things are happening. And because I oversee the finances and I'm on the business credit, some of those things do show up on my personal. So my credit score may be a little bit lower, but all I got to do is pay those balances down next month and the credit score will go up. So the automated underwriting system can see that. It can see, oh, her score is only 630 something this month. Technically, the minimum score might be 620 or 640, but she pays her bills on time. So we're going to give her an approved eligible. Also, what I can tell you is I know I have a lady who's closing right now in Georgia, buying her first home. Pretty much she got a full-time job, part-time job, living from day to day. But buying a home is going to be better for her because where she's renting, they're about to go up on the rent. Well, she's got a couple of collections. Her credit score dropped because of the collections, but the system still approved her for the mortgage. All she has to do is either show that the collections are paid off, or she can get into a payment plan for those collections, and the underwriter is going to take 5% of the outstanding balance and add it to her debt to income ratio. So these are like all these little technical steps and tricks, which is why, and Marvin, when we were doing loans, honey, we were back there. It was like surgery. We were doing mortgage surgery, child. We were figuring out ways. And what I have found is in today's times, and even back then, but even more so now, because when people go to a lender now, they're usually talking to an order taker. And this is something else I have to say to you, Marva, because you went through all of that. You took all the classes. The mortgage professionals today that have to go and take an exam, and I'm telling you all this, and it's the truth. They have to go take an exam, but they never have to pull out a mortgage calculator. They don't even know how to calculate a mortgage payment by hand. I'm telling you the truth. So when you call or contact a mortgage lender, many times it's people who are just punching numbers in, and whatever it tells them, they believe it. But see, the way I was taught and trained my people and all of that is no, baby. We pull out the calculator. I get a pen and a paper. I calculate the income myself. I calculate the debt to income ratio myself. I look and see what's on that credit report. I still use the same system. Everything that we're using, we highlight in yellow. Everything that's being paid off, we put in green. So, all of those things, or vice versa. I forgot which one we did. But to answer your question, even if you think your credit score may not qualify you, and here's another thing. There are people who can buy a house, but not a car. I can tell you, I'm one of those people. Now, I buy cars, I lease them, but for some reason, car dealers don't like me, which is fine, because then I just put them in the business name and it's okay. But my mortgage credit score is higher than my car credit score. And I don't know what it is, or, maybe it's because I had a bankruptcy in 2008. I don't know, because even though the bankruptcy doesn't show up on my credit report anymore, there's another system that cars go through, and certain companies like American Express, Black Card, the luxury card, they go through another credit scoring system, and sometimes those things boot people out as well. So there's all these little things. And then the other thing that's happening is there are people behind the boards clicking things and making things different, changing criteria, changing how things are measured, just like these landlords who use these credit systems. Oh, also, here's the deal with landlords, with renting. If you try to go rent, like, an apartment somewhere, they want you to be making 3 times your income, 2.8, 3 times your income in rent. Who's making 3 times their income in rent? And then they want your score to be some number that you can't, your credit score that you got from Credit Karma, which is not a good measure, by the way. You should get your credit score directly from Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. But I highly recommend that you pull your own credit report and you get your credit report, you get your credit score from myfico.com. That is literally the most accurate credit score that is available to you. And the reason why I like myfico.com is because I can monitor the credit every month. I can see the credit go up and down every day if something happened. And also if somebody applied for credit. A couple years ago, somebody applied for credit with my name. It was identity theft. And I called the company and they couldn't even tell me the information, even though it was my name on it. But they did shut it down, but they couldn't tell me. I said, well, can you give me the phone number and the address of the person who applied for this? What phone number did they use? Please tell me what address they use. I think they just started laughing because, baby, I'm about to start knocking on doors and showing up, or send somebody over there. Who is this using my credit? But the point is, myfico.com, you can see your credit score in real time. So before you go to the car dealership, before you go to the lender, you know your own score. And then you can figure out what you got to do. Another thing you can do is see which score is the highest. So if you apply for a car loan through chase.com, you can get approved through chase.com because they're going to pull your experience score. And this also happened recently to someone I know. But when they went to the dealer and the dealer pulled their credit, they was like, well, no, you denied. So I had the person, they called me, they said, well, I just got denied. I said, first of all, they weren't supposed to pull your credit. I told them going in. But the car sales, they don't know what they're talking about. They desperate, honey. They're trying to get their little jujus, whatever they're trying to get. So I talked to the finance manager. I said, follow my instructions, please. Please don't ask me no questions. Just follow my instructions. He did it. He said, well, now I'm stuck. I said, well, call the phone number you see right there. They called the phone number, put in the application ID, and then they got with Chase, and Chase pulled it up, and Chase had approved the person. So there are nuances and things that may be happening that you are just unfamiliar with because we don't know, or things that are happening because stuff is changing. It literally is. The landscape is changing and it's being reorganized right before our eyes. So redistricting is not the only thing that is happening. And my only thing I'm going to say about that, we should have thought about it first. But that's a whole nother story, because I'm all for it. Like, let's change the map. put some more blue people in, or whatever it is we looking to do. Let's do it. Let's not wait and be timid and this, that, and the other and sitting around. And then the enemy been strategizing and getting their strategy together. And then we trying to react and figure it out. So this is all about us having as much foresight as we possibly can, and having much strategy as we can, and then also having as much support as we can. It makes no sense to have a doctor in your family who specializes in a certain area, and you have that illness and that family member doesn't help you. I feel the same way. And I am apologetic for not being more available. You figure, oh, the classes are out there, but sometimes it comes down to really, really sitting down with friends and family. So this is good. Any more questions? Feel free to raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask your question. I think you guys can unmute yourselves.
I have a question. This is John.
Hey, John.
My question is the strategy that I was thinking about doing as a veteran. I wanted to buy some units, and I wanted to know what the criteria was, because my plan or my strategy I was thinking about trying to use was buy like 3 or 4 units, and I'm sure I would have to live in one, but then get a conventional loan or some other type of loan and pay off that loan so then I could use it and do it again. And I wanted to know if that was possible. And if it is, how long would I have to be living at that particular address in order to qualify me, even though I paid off that loan and just got a new mortgage somewhere else?
Sounds like a great strategy. So let me break it down for you step by step. So the first VA loan that you get, you have full entitlement, which means you can get that property for 100% financing, which means zero money down, which is great. Congratulations. And yes, you can get up to 4 units if you have prior property management experience. You can get up to 2 units, meaning a 2-unit building with no property management experience. So that's very important for those who want to use their VA. Because yes, a multifamily up to 4 units is definitely going to be more lucrative in many cases than a 2-unit. But if you do not have any prior property management experience, you're not going to be able to get the 3 or the 4 unit for the zero down. So the first thing is you full entitlement because you've never used your VA loan. You've got property management experience. I know that about you, John. So yes, you live in one property for at least a year. That's the commitment. And I believe this is what I say all the time: learn the rules of the game and play the game by the rules. Don't try to cheat. Because let me tell you, they running around catching people for all kind of stuff. People got a boyfriend, girlfriend. You didn't tell us this, that, and the other. But just tell the truth, okay? Tell the truth. Never have to look over your shoulder. So actually live there for that first year. Move and change your stuff, and all of your main mail and stuff, have it there. The other 3 units, rent that out, collect that. If this property had equity and or your property value increases because you do some work to it, and John, I know someone like you can go and, baby, you can build a new house almost, okay? But you can't tear the house down and start all over. But if you upgrade and do kitchen and bathroom, or new flooring and, some things like that, or central air, things like that, and your property value has increased enough that you can refinance in a year out of your VA mortgage into a conventional mortgage, then at that point, your VA mortgage is paid off, and now you can use your VA entitlement again. But the second time you use your VA entitlement, you are not full entitled. You have what they call partial entitlement. And so the down payment is a formula. So I'll send you the formula that they apply. And it's typically still not more than about 3% down. But if you refinance that first mortgage and you get some cash back, and you then, rent out the unit you were living in, and now you've got some cash flow, chances are you're going to have the down payment that you need for the next piece of property. So that's a great strategy. Now, what I would recommend that you do with that next property, because you may not want to use the VA for the next property. You may want to use the FHA 203K, because now you can finance 100% of the rehab costs in that second property. So you may not even want to use your VA entitlement the second time, because the second time may have a little bit of a down payment. How would you know what to do? Look at the numbers. So the spreadsheet that I send to you, you can compare FHA versus VA. And I tell people every time, all day long, money never lies. Money does not lie. People lie, baby, all day long. Okay. The weather ain't even dependable, but numbers do not lie. So when you see, oh, this is how much the payment would be, this is how much I would have to put down, these are my out-of-pocket expenses for the VA versus the FHA, then you're cooking with gas. So now here's the thing, the third thing I'm going to say, and this is for everybody who is thinking, okay, I want to start with multi-unit properties because I can live in one for free. This is how you live for free. Rent out your other units. That's one strategy. Everybody don't want to live for free. Some people want to, I want my own place. It's up to you. Just use whatever strategy you think is good for you. If you want to do that strategy, then here's what you're going to come up against next. If you keep buying 3 and 4 unit buildings or multifamily buildings, you're going to look like an investor. And one of the requirements for a VA loan and an FHA loan is you have to be owner occupied. So if the first property that you bought, John, was a VA and it's a multi-unit, and now you're going to go get your second one after you've been there for a year and you're using VA or FHA 203K rehab, you're going to have to explain why you are moving from one multi-unit to the next and why you're not an investor. All right. And sometimes it could be my job relocated me. This property is in, Santa Clarita, and now I'm moving, to Palos, rolling metals, Palos, whatever. You can then make those distinctions. You can then, but it has to make sense, and it needs to be the truth. Okay. So these are for owner occupied. So what I am talking about today, I am talking about how to elevate your real estate portfolio and be owner occupied, build wealth, save money, and help our family members and friends at the same time. So what I'm specifically going to be focusing on over the next year and a half is getting a property for each person in my family. Everybody gonna have something that they own that we can either buy, rehab, and sell, or buy and rent out. Okay. And I'm being very strategic with the strategy. So when I put in the numbers, if I'm going to make rental income, the numbers have to add up. I'm not going to say, oh, but it's so nice. If the numbers don't add up, don't do it. Don't fall in love with the walls and don't get emotional. Money is not emotional. We are. Okay. So it can be done. So there are all kind of people. They're like, oh, I'm doing this. So I'm getting a development. I'm doing that. I'm not doing all of that. I'm starting with the little bitty small strategy with as little money down as possible, getting people eligible and qualified in my immediate family. And then what I've also put together, and Light, you may even want to comment on this. Light has been saying for years, oh, we need Sunny Girl Holdings. We need investment clubs. We need this, that, and the other. We need to be teaching people. And she was right. But, again, I was busy and did not have the time to look at every individual, to look after the properties, quite frankly. But now I'm ready. I'm there. So thank you for that question, John. That was great. And I'll send you both of those spreadsheets so you can compare FHA to VA. So when you get ready to do your next one, literally all you got to do is plug in the numbers in the yellow boxes and boom, it'll tell you if anything that you're looking at makes sense for you. And everybody can do that. So if you're looking for a house, I've got something you can use, and you just plug in the price, the taxes, and the insurance, and the homeowners association, the HOA, if they have one, and it tells you everything. So you don't have to call me or wait for me to text you back and, all that stuff. You can actually tell your mortgage person, or, if you're going with somebody else, what it is. So you'll always be educated and informed. Any more questions? Any more questions? Any more questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay. So this has been beautiful. We started, I told you to log on at 7. I gave folks a little bit of time. I think we started a little bit about 10 after 7. So we're at 16 past the hour in the 8 o'clock hour for me. That's the 11 o'clock hour for those of you on the East Coast, and past the 10 o'clock hour for those of you in the Midwest. So God bless you. I don't want to keep you, but I do want to, answer your question. So if you enjoyed this and you learned something, just send me a text. Say, Lynn, I got questions about X, Y, and Z, and I'll add them to the agenda. I'll just keep adding things so that we can continue to get our questions answered. Because let me tell you something. We have the victory. We already have the victory. It is ours. And I know some of us have been waiting for a breakthrough. We have been waiting for our turn, our time, our season. The pandemic came with dealing with so much of life, this, that, and the other. But let me tell you, we are strong, and we are stronger and better together. And even if it's just one little thing that helps you, one little thing that you can lock your teeth into, one little thing that you can grasp, it is a blessing. Because what's happening, we got so much stuff coming, everything is confusing. But just get one thing, learn the lesson, get the blessing, and God bless you. Have a great night. Can't wait to talk to you again. All right, everybody. Bye-bye. Love y'all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Let's go.